Hello everybody, welcome back to the PTC podcast. I'm here today with the boss, the main man, Kris Greene. Hello Chris.
Hello.
Welcome. This
Thank
is
you.
your couple of times you've been on this before.
3 maybe?
Yeah,
2 or 3?
Maybe more, but it's fun. It'd be funny to listen to that old one. We're here because we have the company has just turned 9 years, end of September. So we thought we need a guest for this week. Who's around? Destiny's not ready to jump in front of the camera just yet, so we said let's have a chat with Chris.
Great. You would think in all that time we've learned how to manage the temperature in this room.
Oh yeah, Chris is a little bit cold because he forgot to wear his hoodie.
Anyway.
But all's good. What do you reckon, Chris? 9 years?
Yeah, good fun
How'd it happen?
along the way. Absolute chancers.
Yeah.
No intention to ever run a business or to run our own shop, essentially. And what are we, 9 years later? We've only been running a proper business for 2 years, 3 years, let's say. It's just been a formation up until that kind of turning point around COVID time where we actually decided to take it seriously. But yeah, who knew?
What would you class as a proper business?
I mean, operational systems, procedures,
Yeah.
rules of thumb. You know, there's so many different ways to analyze it. Sales, marketing, finance, operations, systems around all of those things. So a lot of that stuff we were just kind of cowboys at the start of the year, hadn't a clue, or at the start of the journey, hadn't a clue. But now we're building systems. We have a second branch, which is quite new and
A proper second branch.
We have a scalable model now.
Yeah.
Let's just throw that way.
Not like previously we've had multiple branches, but it's just been individuals working as their freelancers in many different places. Whereas now,
I mean, it was initially four lads splitting a trade license.
Yeah.
Whereas I suppose now it's people following systems and protocols and I suppose philosophies around training. So
yeah, at the start, like I wouldn't say we were just doing what we had to do to put food on the table when we first set up. We knew the community vibe was good from our previous job. We knew the four of us did work together well. The clients back in 2014, 2015, they knew each other. We knew when we left that other job, we had to keep ourselves together, keep the community together. So that was almost first and from the very beginning.
I think that was our main thing. Like we knew the technical side of things so well, and it was such second nature given our backgrounds that we weren't trying to prove ourselves technically.
Yeah, as coaches,
Yeah, and I think we had our audience already based on our own training philosophies. So obviously you were more rehab, I was more performance, Matt was more longevity. I think at that time Nick was more kind of in the performance realm as well. So we all had our own little communities around us. But yeah, as you said, we knew and we saw that when clients know each other and across different coaches, that's when it all kind of comes together. That's the glue. So.
Yeah, because we knew that like nobody likes, unless you're one of those people who puts their earphones in, goes to the gym by themselves. The people who are paying for support, guidance, accountability, they don't really enjoy the gym. So how do we build something, or how do we keep something going where we strip down all the barriers surrounding the training? So we make it as easy we reduce the excuses, make it about the people and not us. We never really wanted it to be us. It's about the experience when the clients come together. So even when we were in the freelancer gyms, we still were training side by side, like squat rack apart. I had 3 or 4 clients, you had 3 or 4 clients right next to us. So they all still got to co-mingle and chat and complain and catch up on each other's days of work and what they're doing at weekends.
I think we learned about those collision points as well. You know, literally, how do you design a space where you encourage people to to bump into each other physically, almost bump into each other. So it's a talking point. It breaks down barriers.
Sharing equipment. Can I use that? Are you finished with this chit chat?
Yeah,
I saw you did that.
That's all planned. It's funny.
We kind of had this chat recently. I don't know how true it is, but it's almost like, I think because we were right at the end of the pre-social media generation. So like we set up in 2015. Instagram was a thing, but I didn't have a work Instagram. Did you have a work one at that stage?
No.
Because I remember the distinct feeling of saying, oh no, we're now freelancing and I don't have a portfolio. Coach Nick had been 2 years ahead of us on that. Matt had got one. I definitely didn't have. Matt, I don't know if Matt did. Matt was in charge of our social media at one point. But
that's funny now.
Yeah, but so that was the start of Instagram, right? And I set up a work one. 'Cause I had a personal one where it was like selfies of me and you on a boat is one of the pictures on that one. And I was like, I don't want to bother my friends, so let me set up a work Instagram. And my point is, we were not interested in making it about us. It was about how do we build a business so that when we're 40, which I'm nearly 40, how do we make sure that we're not waking up at 5 a.m. delivering one-on-one PT sessions and in the gym till 8 p.m. delivering one-on-one PT sessions?
So I think that was, I don't want to say we were fearful of it, but like we had worked from however many years, from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Literally, you might get a snooze during the day, but you weren't getting any kind of additional admin done. So yeah, we realized pretty soon that there is a cap on how many hours you have in the day, right? If you're doing one-to-ones.
Yeah.
So then we said, all right, well, semi-PT is clearly the way to go. So you might be able to make the same amount for reduced amount of hours, or you might be able to make more. And I think that then forged the direction of what we were doing as well, and it made us then go down the route of the large group training, which is stuff we never really got the chance to do prior to that. But I think it was from being in that position we knew that it wasn't feasible long term. And I think if you don't realize that in the fitness industry, you don't last very long. The churn rate of PTs is
massive.
Is massive.
It must be massive.
Yeah.
Because I look like now in Dubai, there's a few boys I see on their social medias talking about being like coaches being 40 and still training people, and that's great. But 5, 6, 10 years ago, there wasn't anybody in their 40s still going. Maybe I wasn't seeing them on social media. Maybe they were hidden in these smaller gyms back then. But there was no old boys in the industry. And it was either because A, the industry is very young and they just hadn't got to that age yet, or they were aging out in their 30s and getting a job in a management position or going back into teaching or whatever.
Yeah, we've seen it so many times.
Yeah. But one of the things I think also, we had already in our previous life in the UK, you'd been getting trains in the dark in England, walking kilometres and cold winter mornings. I had to drive an hour and a half out of the city to get a job. But we were used to training big groups of people. It was very...
Yeah, we were confident in
it was very simple. It's like we can actually do what we're doing. You just have to know, like, the quality is there if you get it right, if you really coach. Look what to look out for.
I think that was one of the biggest challenges, especially with the circuit classes that initially started as the training room, but obviously it's kind of all turned into that now. But trying to deliver quality en masse really kind of was a challenge. And I think we've got there in the end, but the fitness industry has caught up to that as well, and that there is now a lot of quality being delivered en masse, as opposed to before. You could really, let's say 10 years ago, you could only really find good quality strength and conditioning training in a one-on-one scenario or at a sports club where there's massively competent people in terms of physical movement, right? Whereas a lot of the population that we work with, they're either brand new or they're returning to what they used to do but they haven't done for a very long time, and so they're missing those neural pathways, right? Or they're not missing them, but they're having to retrain those neural pathways, and then they've almost forgotten how to move. But
when you say en masse, though, we never really used to coach with more than 1 to 14, 15. And we're still doing that if you look at what we're doing now. Like when we would have those big Saturday classes, there'd be 2 of us in the group of 30 plus. I think the most we ever had was a few sessions crept up in the low 40s. But now the groups are 12. One coach, that's about the limit of 12 to 14 good experienced people. All you need is a couple of newbies to come in, and the coach now has to work very hard. But we're not talking about mass. Like some of the gyms in the world have massive groups.
Yeah, I think, look, coming from a physiological standpoint, we don't want to deliver sessions to 50 people.
Yeah.
That becomes a dance class or a spinning class or a yoga set, stuff that doesn't rely heavily on external resistance or correct technique or whatever it might be, right? So all that stuff can be delivered on mass inverted commas. But yeah, I suppose we had to really think, how can we deliver quality resistance training and quality conditioning to people in a large enough group that makes sense for us to survive as a business, you know?
Yeah, to be able to deliver that quality so people come back. And often people have said, I mean, I'm sure they say it to a lot of PTs, but often people really appreciate actually being coached in a large group setting as opposed to just being brought in, stood in the corner and being told, here's the workout, 3, 2, 1, go.
I think we had that conversation as well. It was like, okay, we're used to working with sports teams. We're used to having 5 or 6 players in the gym at any one time, and they're all on different programs, and we're bouncing back and forth, right? That's how it works in a sports environment. So we were like, well, why don't we just create our own team? Our own little sports club, do you know? Why don't we just... And that was kind of...
It was called team training at one point, wasn't it?
Yeah, at one point, yeah.
Just the small group stuff, because we had slightly different structures back in the early days. I think you were just doing pay for the month, come down as many times as you want, and the coach is there, which is probably what you did at London Irish. Just, I'm here, come down. And in the other place, we had like a pay per session set up. I suppose it's just in the days of trialing everything, eh?
We've trialed enough.
Yeah, which is what people don't realise. I mean, 9 years. I mean, I'm sure they do realise, to be honest. I'm sure it's very obvious. You don't get to 9 years. Because we had no idea what we were doing at the start. It was, like I said at the beginning, it was just, I need to put food on the table. I need to go to work. All right. In order for this to be good, I need to make sure that what I sell is really good and the experience I give people is really good. But I think what's given it the longevity, and this is kind of what I was touching on, is we wanted to build a business, not Coach Keith, Coach Kris, which ultimately kind of splinters off into the individual, which I think fair play to anybody doing it themselves at the moment. If you're working for yourself in the fitness industry and you have to do everything that you and I pretty much split down the middle, hats off to those guys and those women who are doing it all themselves.
Yeah, it's brutal. I suppose that there is those avenues now with online training. Like there is scalability from a one-man show or a one-man band that you can appeal to a wider audience, and maybe it doesn't rely so heavily on your top being off and what shape your body is in and blah blah blah, because that's kind of how online training started, right? But then I don't know, for me, I'm just not the guy who wants to be on camera that often talking nonsense, you know, for clickbait or whatever. But yeah, that forced us into building something that could run without us. Yeah. Not that it does run without us, but that's the goal, right? That's where you want your business to get to. Obviously, I don't think we'd ever want to leave the day-to-day operations because we quite enjoy it, but that's the epitome of a successful business is can you leave, go away,
like leave for a holiday, yeah,
and come back and the whole house hasn't burned down.
Yeah, or you don't. I mean, we kind of slipped a little bit when we did that first Keeley trip, if you remember, where me and you both went away the same week. It must have been 2021, post COVID, and also we took a load of the clients with us as well. So we all had a great time, a great 10 days in Tanzania. We came back to work. Everyone was amazing. That was the best thing ever. Social media was buzzing, blah, 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 blah. We got, like 4 weeks later, we saw the revenue. It's like, oh no. What have we done? We can't do
Yeah.
that again. That can't,
Yeah.
so
Have we gone on the same trip since then? I don't think we
probably a
have,
ski
have we?
trip, but those ski trips though, that we both went, I only took a weekend, and I think you did the week with Robin. You guys are more fun than me, so you get to have more fun.
Nobody's actually seen the real fun Keith, but we won't go
No,
there.
he's skeleton in the closet. He might come out. He comes out way after everybody else is already there. So by the time everyone wakes up the next morning, nobody remembers. It has happened. But that's what I mean. I was watching something the other day, and it's like you can have fun nights out, but really, like, the business is what people are paying for. They're not paying to go out on the session. They're not paying for. Some of them are paying for a social group, but they're really paying for results. They're paying for experience and accountability.
Yeah, and you know, I think we've found a nice little market for ourselves in that. Yes, we help people lose weight, and yes, we help people get stronger. But I think our kind of key message is longevity, you know, and as somewhat of a balanced lifestyle. Super duper strict fitness people are often quite painful to be around, you know. Where vice versa, absolute sesh heads are not really often going anywhere or happy or whatever it might be, right? So I think we've found that nice little balanced approach to our fitness and that, or to our training, and that it's kind of training for the rest of your life, as opposed to come on in, let's measure everything, let's be super strict, let's give you a protocol of steroids and fat loss
and low
pills
calorie
and
stuff,
and super low calories to follow, and you look shredded for a week before you get miserable and never want to do it again. You know, like that one photo that you get after a 6-week or a 12-week or whatever week challenge, you know.
Yeah, I never thought about it that way, but yeah, that there's a lot of people who are looking for that photo shoot or that stage competition, which is great, and then they tilt back out of that and then get back to a normal life. But part of the longevity stuff, I think, for me, it's just trying to coach people with the minimum effective dose. You know, like, you don't have to beast yourself. So we can talk about still training when you're 60, but how you're going to get there is by this week. How you feeling? Yes, the program says you need to do this much weight and this much, but if you're not feeling it, like, let's not overcook it, because there's a big part of that mental game where, like, you can mentally fatigue out before you physically fatigue. So you showing up when you don't want to show up. If you get beasted, you're just not going to show up.
Yeah.
You're just going to go, geez, last time I had a long day at work, I went there at the gym, I pushed way too hard, I don't feel like that today, I'm too tired, I'm going home, send a text, I'm cancelling. Oh, cancellation, right, well, that's not inside 24 hours or outside 24 hours, right, I'm going to charge you. That happens 3 or 4 times. Client goes, well, no, I'm not paying for this anymore. See you later, I'm dropping out. And now the client's lost their longevity, but it's an immediate failure. Yeah. As opposed to, look, come down, have a stretch, see how you feel. And then so many times you hear people going, oh, I wasn't going to come down today, but I'm glad I did. I feel much better. And on the paperwork on the program, they've not done a lot. No. But it's like, I just feel better, I'm glad I did. And then that just gives them the trust.
That's often what it is, like, without getting too far into the technicalities of it and RPE and, I suppose, pre-training questionnaires and that kind of thing. It's just like, and I think it came from a hybrid of my philosophy and your philosophy, because I was, as I said, very performance-based, working towards the top end of, and bringing my clients down that route as well, towards the top end of strength and power and speed and blah, blah, blah. And then obviously you were coming at it from a very lower level stuff of return to play. And we started to see that there was definitely a balance to be struck there. And then both of us understanding that athlete management type of approach over a 9-month period is way more valuable than beasting, and even minor periodization, like across weeks. You know, you'll have a heavy day, a light day, and and a day off, or a stretch day or whatever it might be, or a medium day, and that's all gearing towards certain performance days, you know, where you actually have one day that you need to focus. So I think we got our heads around that pretty quickly and found something that works for that population that we're currently kind of serving.
Yeah, I wonder, was that commonality the fact that we both played sports where you're sort of in the middle of all of that? So you got your high performance, and I would say rehab. And we have both dabbled. I've obviously dabbled in a bit of performance from playing rugby and training and following. Like, you train for rugby, you need power, you need speed, you need all that stuff. So I've internally experienced it. I haven't really coached it because it never really interested me. And then obviously you're playing rugby as well. You're playing your sports. You get injured. You spend some time in the rehab cycle. You pop back out as a coach. You're rehabbing guys. You can see the difference. So there's a lot of crossover there. But even with the like a lot of the main bulk of the programming, even though these guys weren't performance, I was just like, you do it. Like, I know you've got it. This is not going to work if there's two of us doing it. So I'm going to keep my opinion to myself, because in fact, it's one less thing for me to worry about if you do it. So that whole programming is none of my philosophy. It's all your philosophy, and now Robin's putting a spin on it for her stuff. But
it's been interesting to see her develop as well, because she came from a very let's smash it every session kind of approach.
I think that's the way the fitness industry is.
It is, interestingly enough, because it's also become a sport.
There's a lot more of that nowadays. Let's just say that, the smash.
But I think you look at the top tier CrossFit athletes and the top tier High Rocks guys now. I think that will filter down into the coaches and to the mid tier athletes as well. But those guys are managing their workload, their overload.
Top guys,
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
They don't get to be on that stage if you haven't got your tiny bits correct.
Yeah, so you know, she's on her own journey with that as well, and I think she's doing a great job with the programming now, and with variety and long-term 12-week program approach with a 4 testing periods every year. So yeah, it's interesting to see.
Yeah, but I mean, just going back, it's none of that is me, by the way. If that's all from your early stuff. It's just grown. We used to have the sessions that were done on the squares during COVID.
Oh God!
And I think you started incorporating animal movements, which still have a place in the program nowadays. There's bear crawls, there's side kick throughs, there's the crab taps. But I still don't know how you came up with, what was it, 104. We were doing for 2 years, 2.5 years, 3 years before we got to get some of these machines in the room. 150 sessions, like, forget it. I don't know anybody that could have done that. I remember some of the guys back in the day not back in the day, but a couple of years ago, would question mark this exercise and that exercise. I'm like, listen, don't question it, just do it, because if you keep questioning it, you're going to have to write these programs. So just sit in a world of gratitude that Kris is doing this every week, week after week after week, because I guarantee you don't want to be doing that job.
I think with the programming, you have to strike that balance, especially with the general population, and striving for adherence and longevity and sticking to the plan. You have to offer variety, right? So whether that's the perfect exercise or not, I think I actually had this chat this morning. You could be the most technically sound, I suppose, manager or program writer or whatever it is, and that might be the perfect program, but you have to consider all these other elements as well. So if you're 80% great and 20% mediocre with your programming skills, that's also okay, because it adds variety, and maybe it just makes people coming back a bit more often. Maybe it gives them that talking point. Maybe it gives them a chance to say to the lad next, what the fuck was that? And then all of a sudden they're like, everyone hates the coach, and that's funny and that's fun, and that's community, right?
Yeah,
so, there's a much deeper 2 or 3 layers to the exercise selection, as opposed to some performance dude who's tracking the most optimal this, that, and the other, you know.
But at the same time, because everything you've said there is related to the larger group and the adherence and the cohesion of the experience being in the room and the workouts on the board. But when it comes to your one-on-one strength program, it's the other end. It's all boring. It's all the same: lift, squat, push, whatever. It's not. You're not giving people in the gym area single arm, triple curl, variety ABC. It's just
pencil rolls.
Oh my god, pencil rolls. I forgot about
They're actually a really good exercise.
They're very hard to do. Well, actually, you know what? That's what I just said about the amount of sessions you have to do. You actually have to double that, because you're also creating Zoom programs at the same time. So there's the in-class one, jumping up and down with this machine and that piece of kit that we have in the gym. But for people who are at home with their water bottles and their like kitchen chairs.
I have an image in my head of Andrew Wells deadlifting on a fucking couch.
No, bicep curl on the couch.
Yeah. I was like, oh my god, it's gone too far.
I made him do that. So you had him doing, shout out to Andrew Wells for being a great sport. I think it was burpee, bicep curl or something. And he didn't have dumbbells, so I made him do a burpee at the end of his couch. And I'm watching this on the screen because he's in some hotel or he's doing a 10-day isolation after a close contact or something. And so he does a burpee, then he jumps up, stays in a real low squat position, bicep curls the couch, puts it back down, then does a burpee, and then jumps up again. And then because that was so funny, because everybody was laughing at him, he was on the TV, like in a good way. We banged it up on the TV, and it's immortalized now on our throwback section of the TV we have playing in the gym. Yeah, so Andrew Wells did a solid job. We had him winning Member of the Month 1 month for what edged him above everybody else was he was doing calorie burns in the toilet on an airplane flying back from Saudi because we had calorie targets on our like Apple Watch, I think, or something, and he either hadn't hit his steps or he hadn't closed all of his Apple rings. So he was ticking them off, and you could see by the time he was finishing, he's like, mate, you were on a flight, what happened there? He's like, I know, I went to the bathroom, I did squats. It's like, fair play. But look, that's like you said earlier, that's the technical side of the actual delivering the service, being the coaches. But aside from that, we had this other mountain to climb, learning marketing, learning sales, learning all the other little business things. You went down the road of finance, which was like a massive cornerstone of obviously running any business is looking after the finance. And I met one of our old pals in England a couple of months ago, Nick Gallagher in London, and I was giving him a 10 years later update. And I was like, yeah, Kris is more in the admin, he's more in the document emails, following up, chasing people, doing the finance, doing the spreadsheets. And I'm more like dealing with the group, dealing with the trips, dealing with the team, catching up, making sure that the ceiling's not falling down. And he said that he would have expected that to be the direct opposite. Is that back in the old days, it was me that he had expected me to be more in the diligent admin side of things, and you to be much more the face and the hey everybody, let's all have a good time. I was like,
yeah, it's interesting. I don't know how that happened. I know I said to Matt one day, I was like, man, I'm going to take over the finance, if that's okay with you.
Should we talk about that before you took that over? There was days where I remember, like, these numbers are not adding up, whatever thing. And I hate finance, but I know what to look for. If it's all on me, I'll make our petty cash club account work. Mm. And I remember looking through the bank statement and looking through the Excel spreadsheet, and there was just numbers missing. So he'd looked, and I'm going to put you to the slaughter here, Matt, for your finance skills. This is why you're not doing finance anymore. There was like whatever entry there was, he'd read the top one, then that would be on the Excel sheet on the bank statement. Then he'd read the next one, then it'd be on the Excel sheet. Then he'd miss one, and then the fourth one would be the third one on the Excel sheet, right? And at no point had he brought in any of the charges, like just the bank charges. I was like, you can't not do this.
I don't actually remember that.
Oh, I can't remember why, but I remember this day, and I was like, Matt, there's a few bits missing here.
I think that was when we decided to actually get an accountant as well.
Well, that was that was one thing that because of my absolute hate for finance, and I hated it in school. In my first university course, that first day was finance. I balanced the books in the exam. And that's the first and only time I've ever balanced the books, and I passed the exam. And I'm like, I'm never doing the finance again. I've peaked. So right at the start, I was like, guys, let's just get a finance guy. We got on. Somebody referred our original accountant to us, and that was our first external hire. I think marketing might have been first, with Omar and 10 Forward, and then the accountant. But we had an accountant early on.
Did we? Yeah, but then I think
before you fired him.
That was. Let's go down there. But yeah. So I took over, and I think going back to what Nick said, that was me. But I don't like being on camera. I don't like being the face of things. I just like getting into the nitty gritty of it and getting stuck in person. I'm useless on social media. I can't bring myself to do it. So whereas you're quite handy at it, you're a better talker. I mumble a lot, and I'd probably get in trouble. That's another story.
That's going to have to subtitle this audio.
We'll get into another story later about when I get in trouble about talking to people and how I talk to them. But yeah, I think it was from the sports science background and dealing with Excel, and
I think that's it.
I'm mad about Excel. Yeah, love it. So I just kind of. I was at a phase where I was like, do I go for further education? And do Excel? I go for an MBA, or do I go down where am I going to go with this? And I said, well, I've got 2 businesses here that need financial tracking, and I was like, fuck it, I'll just do it for the next few years, see how I get on, and learn things on the fly. So I think I got, not that I'm a CFO or anything like that, but I think
you're
a mini MBA.
Yeah, well, it's definitely that. I think is your ability to look at Excel, because even if you're trying to make bullet points and make lists, you open Excel first, and you write in Excel. I think your brain, you've always been so needy when it comes to schedules, and I think your brain works in blocks and squares somehow. It's just you visualize things, I think, in columns and rows.
Keith's the poet of the group, the artistic poet.
Of course. Tread softly because you tread on my dreams. So that's because when we used to make a program for me back in England, and you'd send me an Excel thing, and I'm like, man, I just need it on a piece of paper. Yeah. And one worksheet will be like, here's what you're doing this week, and then the other worksheet will be like red and yellow, green. Work hard, don't work so hard, work less hard. I was like, okay. I just need to know what to do Monday and Wednesday. So even back then, you had a thing for Excel. I'm not that I hated it, but I was like, right, great. If you want to do that.
How did you get into the whole front-facing thing? Because quite often you'd be the quieter, more reserved, I suppose, until you get to know people or has a couple of vodkas.
Yeah. Bit of Red Bull.
But you kind of adopted the front facing, getting out there, talking on camera. You adopted that very quickly.
I'll tell you what it was,
and now you're the CMO of the company. Let's say
I'm the voice of the company. You're the face of the company. What happened way back was I knew that you guys were not ever going to pick up the phone and call people. So I would hate it the least. Was my and if I didn't do it, it wouldn't get done. Like I remember so many days, because we were early on in marketing, we were early on in Facebook ads. We did really well way back with ads and getting leads. And I remember having so many leads would come in, I wouldn't be able to call them. So I had to set time aside on a Sunday, go down to a Starbucks, and I had a pen and paper, and I was writing all the names on one piece of paper, like all the leads. Never thought of using a Google sheet, but what it was. Here's an email, open the email, get the name, write it across the top of the line, leave 2 lines space for the notes, and then go to the next email, I'll take the same details. So I had like name, space, name, phone number, email, the whole lot. And I'd call them and I'd write in the stuff of how it would go. And then I'd open up my emails and I would send them what looked like an automated email. Oh, your booking is now complete for, and I type in the day that their booking was in, and I tell them where all that would have like a copy paste as to where the gym was, bring a towel, come downstairs, this is the deal. So it was all so manual, but I hated every second of it. Because I was just bothering people, you know, and we're not salespeople. Like it's not the thing we ever learned, but I just knew that I would hate it least. If I didn't do it, nobody would do it, and we wouldn't get anywhere. And then I remember we had to do a video for the first training room video that we had on our website, Omar, and I found that video actually recently. I'll see if I can post it because it's the wrong dimensions. It's so bad. It's so bad. I'm not even saying full sentences. And the way Omar's chopped it and edited it, he's put it together. But again, it was because I knew that I'd be the best worst at it. Do you know? And you guys would never. Matt would never do it. Matt was absolutely not. Matt was easily like, Matt, will you do this for me? No. Okay.
Funny enough, it was his idea. The whole thing of starting a company was his idea, which was great. It got us all sorted. So he can't be. Can't be forgotten about, right?
Oh, no way. But he was just like, nope. And then Nick, English wasn't his first language, and Nick had a different way of communicating with people where it's like, you can't be the first person they speak to. And also, Nick didn't really want to go into the classes stuff. No. So it was me and you in the classes. Matt was willing to help out if we needed cover. But I knew, like, there's no way you're going to ever pick up the calls. So, because I hate it less, I'll do it. And then I just started to figure it out. I had to figure it out. I had to learn. I had to figure what worked. And, there's one of those phrases where, you know, if you do the things you don't like, it was so much effort. It was such an intrinsic lift to have to pick up the phone and call all these people on a Sunday in Starbucks and write all this shit down.
I think that's the start of the entrepreneurial, in inverted commas, like, journey, right? Like, you have to experience operations, marketing, finance, sales. You have to experience them at the base level before you can even start to think about building a system around it. And luckily, you're familiar with systems because of your past life in Dublin, working with gyms and ticking boxes and getting phone calls regularly and blah blah blah, like reports and monitoring and tracking and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's just like, it's the starting blocks of building a fairly decent foundation. And we have built systems based around all those early kind of nonsense days of getting dragged down little wormholes and experimenting and failing and trying different things and finding out what works and stuff.
But it was out of necessity. You know, if I didn't do that, it wouldn't have got done. If you didn't do the programs, it wouldn't have got done. You know, like I'm not the program guy, so we kind of like found different roles back then in that stuff. And then I don't know where the front facing stuff was just like, actually I'll tell you what happened. Trisha Evans got us in with Suzanne Radford at Dubai Eye first. Me and Matt went on. And Matt, if anyone remembers Matt, he's the smartest guy in Dubai when he was here. He was way smarter than everybody. He could quote you literature, who authored the study, all that stuff. He just had a brain for it. So him and me went into the radio and we would share the chat. And he was great. He was like
a talker,
a great talker. He had no he had no nerves. He was just like, what? Talk about what? Yeah, okay. Matt is like, the whole of the city is listening. He's like, well, I'll just pretend I'm talking to the DJ. What? Okay, let's go. And then he'd go off and he'd smash it for like an hour on the radio. So then that was just practice. And then we actually both set up the podcast just out of fun and because we were free to do whatever we wanted. So that kind of just gave us more access, more practice speaking to people. But I think it just grew from there. It was really just, none of you guys would have done it if I didn't. It wouldn't have got done if I didn't do it. So that's how that started. And then I think a couple of years ago when you went way more into the admin stuff, we realized that it actually works quite well. for you to spend more hours on the laptop looking at a screen. I'm happy to just keep going knowing that.
Yeah, I suppose it's given, and obviously having, well, you have Allo and I have Showbox as well, but getting exposure to different industries and how different corporations work, and it's kind of, we've brought it back around as well. It's helped us bring in different protocols, different types of systems. It's made us understand what needs to happen, what courses we should be going on, how we should be treating and supporting all the team, and how we should be running our business. So yeah, I think having that exposure to external, I suppose, situations has allowed us to kind of, and I think we're only at the start of it now, is introducing ourselves to the next phase of the business, you know.
Yeah.
It allowed me to step back. It allowed me to see the value of me stepping back from the floor. And now that's kind of starting to come to fruition, where you and me have been teaching each other what's been happening on the floor. I've been teaching you what's been happening outside the gym. And now it's forged this new chapter that I think is really just started with this new facility and this new focus, I suppose, on the group classes.
Yeah, and it's I've totally lost my train of thought. But yeah, as you mentioned earlier with the second facility, this is our first proper second facility where we actually have a system to implement, and then it's about managing the two and learning how to get what's deep in the crevices of my brain, what's deep in the crevices of your brain. Because I was saying to Destiny this before, I think about this stuff all day, every day, you know, like nothing gets forgotten, but it's because I'm thinking about it all the time. So we get through the checklist, but now it's about getting that out of my head, getting it down. Someone else can follow, someone else can take this responsibility, someone else can take that responsibility.
So I think that's the next part, is we've gone from that technical side of things. I suppose we had to jump into that business owner, entrepreneurial side of things, and now we're trying to introduce a management system or a management team, and because they're coming up as well. It's not like we're hiring people who are experienced managers, right?
Yeah.
Like we're giving the team a chance to step up and fill these roles that will allow us to go on and look for bigger business development opportunities and partnerships and whatnot. But that's, I suppose, where the next place is taking us. We've systemized the technical side of things. Now we have to.
That's it. Yeah.
Get that management team to a place that allows us to grow even further. Yeah,
that's it. That's what I'm saying about getting the stuff out of the cracks in my brain onto a piece of paper that someone else can go, oh yeah, I see the way the business is run, but really it's ran the way you think. Do you know what I mean? So that comes out of my head onto a piece of paper, and then, right, I need your help with this, and I need you to put your spin on this, and I need you to deliver this with all the variables that you have. How do you understand that? And then when they don't get it right, it's like, all right, I feel I haven't explained it, or, you know, I've this mistake has started with me here. I've just gone, bosh, do that, without any better way of supporting or educating or helping the.
That's another lesson for us that we're learning as well. Is okay, we're good coaches, so surely we can apply those principles to coaching in the business sense, right? How can we coach our team without having one-on-one PT sessions or one-on-one coaching sessions? But how can we coach them in an easily digestible form, rather than just saying, "Here, go do that," because we think it's easy.
Yeah.
It's not always as, like, the problem-solving skills are not always as easy. So it's almost like how do we best build the knowledge of our team around that.
It's, I mean, if you think back, like, we made so many mistakes. You know, like, I was gonna say growing up, but in the early days that it's pointless. It's not even worth going into them. But like, there's so many meetings we had with people that were pointless, ventures that we started where we made a bit of money and then it just dwindled. so many, like, it's not all just, oh yeah, we started and then we did this and then that and then that and that and now we're here. It's like we went all the way down that way, we went all the way over there, we had a class happening on the grass in Sports City. You were in schools for a couple of years. We had coaches in different sports academies.
I think that was one of the things that allowed us, though, was we always took that approach that let's fail, let's be shit again. Like, let's be shit at stuff. Let's enjoy it. Let's learn. Because I think we're both driven by learning, right? You own an online learning business, right? So, like, we both like learning, and there's many ways to learn, but we've also allowed ourselves to be shit.
Yeah.
Like, I'm totally okay with you exploring a shit idea and getting feedback from that shit idea, and then, or a great idea, whatever it might be. So it's that feedback loop of, okay, let's experiment, let's be okay to fail, and let's actually enjoy the failing process. Because I suppose some of the guys we've worked with haven't been okay with that process, right? So
yeah. Well, I was having a chat this morning with somebody who was saying how, like, I was asking them, are they gonna hire new people? And they're like, no, there's nobody good in what they do. And I felt like just saying, you haven't even looked. Like, you haven't even taken the first step. You're already building up your reasons why it's going to fail. Right. Have you even looked for a good team member, a good staff member to hire? Because there's loads of opportunities. Are you gonna grow your business? No, there's nobody good to help me. What? Yeah. Like, you haven't even stepped into that. Let's waste some time talking to people, because when I find that 1 in 100, it's gonna be so much better than where I am right now. With and I'm just building walls as to why that won't work. I'm building walls as to why this won't work. And it's like I think we just went like, let's do it, or why not? Let's try it and see. And loads of stuff didn't work. Loads of stuff made us, like, the ninja thing was almost too successful. Yeah, flooded with leads, people looking for their kids to do.
We had no idea how to deal with it.
We had no idea, and there was loads of what did you say? Like, loads of problems. Then nowadays I know exactly how to solve them. You know, that needs one meeting, bosh, that's done, that's solved. And then thankfully COVID came, stopped it all. We just refunded everybody, and then that was never restarted after COVID. But that was one of the things where I'm like, oh my God, we've messed up a great opportunity, because that's the way it was at the time. But it was just so many leads, so many people coming in. We just couldn't keep up with it with the team we had.
At that stage, I think that was the corner as well, where, oh my God, we're doing so much.
Yeah.
And we're not good at anything. Like, no, sorry, that's not fair. We were good at a lot of stuff, but we weren't amazing at it, or we didn't have the bandwidth or the energy to be.
We were way too spread.
Yeah, massively spread. So I think that then forced us to reconsider where our priorities were, and exactly, we always wanted to build something scalable. Schools wasn't scalable.
Were you in the school still then, just before COVID that year?
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, potentially it was scalable, but nobody had the passion or desire to go down that route, and we were kind of subject to whoever was in the PE office at that time.
Yeah,
whether they wanted it or not. So it was, we kind of wanted to take full control of our destiny. That's dope. But I suppose, and by doing that, then we settled on this current business model, where it allows us to immediately affect the business by pulling whatever lever needed to be pulled at that time. Whereas I think when we were spread too thin, we were far too reliant on other people, on external relationships. You know, like, there's way too much that it would weaken the model, right? Yeah, whereas now I think it's a relatively robust model that can't really get too affected by too many things.
Yeah, like, definitely COVID, when it stopped everything, it's like, all right, everything's gone. You know, I was in Dublin, you guys were doing a bit of online stuff, but it's like the business as you know it is now finished. You have 4 months to decide what you're going to do. And when it came back out, it was like, all right, we don't have much choice but to narrow in, double, triple, quadruple down on whatever we start with, because we cannot reopen with what we had, because it was it was not disastrous, but it wasn't going in any direction. It was circling. It was just spinning in circles. Coaches in this place, coaches in that place, coaches here in the morning, over there in the evening. Nobody was condensing. Everyone's, oh, this is my problem, that's my problem, I have a problem with this, I have a problem with this. It was so much pushback on every decision we were trying to make that when COVID happened, it was like, stop, forget about all that. 4 months later, we're going to come back to it. We came back and we was like, right, let's build out a class. I thought, personally, and we probably agreed on this in one of the Zoom calls we had during COVID, that there was going to be a bigger economic crash with everyone taking salary cuts and that kind of stuff. So let's go in with a cheap price class. And it absolutely boomed in the first 6 months. Yeah. It was like, whoa, this is possible. And whether we were doing something different, we were here before loads of the F45s. We were ready to go before loads of the units. Barry's only had one place, so maybe it was just there. Because then all of the gyms in Europe stayed closed, and then the gyms started opening up here as people were shifting their fitness businesses over here. So with no budget, we were here first with no money, and they were coming in with their investments over the next couple of years. But yeah, it did okay. And then
it's interesting to see how the industry's gone as well. There's been so many new gyms come in, open, fail, close. There's so much competition in this. Alcoa's is ridiculous. Yeah. But in the city itself, because you've got a couple of big Globo gym chains, a few of them, not just one or two, right? And then you've got a bunch of boutique setups that are competitive, and then you've got a huge freelance.
Yeah.
Then you've also got the beach that you have to contest with as well, right?
Every apartment block has a usable gym as well.
Yeah, so it's a funny industry, because I don't think you get that in many other places.
I don't think you get I don't know, because obviously we weren't quite freelancing in Dublin, or London, but I don't know if you've got such a big freelancer industry in many cities. Probably places like Miami and LA you do, where there's a lot of money, big houses, big gyms, beach, all that stuff. Probably in those big cities close to the beaches you would, but in most cities with heavy traffic, like, people are just going to go work in a gym, stay in that one place from 6 a.m. till 10 p.m. Yeah. Build up your client base that way, and then maybe set up a warehouse or a garage gym and grow that into a small little warehouse gym. But I suppose you just play the card you're dealt, don't you? And here we are, 9 years later.
9 more to go.
Yeah.
Then what? Give it to Desto. You'll be running the shop by then.
You got it.
Desto, GM of the PTC.
Destiny's going to turn into a female, a boss bitch.
Done.
A what? A bow on the bull, on your little daisy bull. Cool. All right. Well, let's wrap it for. Say again.
I get it.
You get what? Oh, yeah.
She gets it.
We'll see. A couple more years, and we'll see. But yeah, look, let's wrap it on that. Any maybe 10 years we'll do another podcast this time next year.
Well, we have one every year, is it? Is that?
Yeah.
Is that what I'm getting roped into?
We'll just say the same stories every year, over and over again. If you missed last year's podcast, we've just gone and repeated ourselves, and we'll do the same next year.
Lovely.
Yeah, cool. Anything else to add?
No. Let's see how many gyms we have by next year. That's what I'm interested in. That's what the next chapter holds.
How many gyms and how many destinies? We find any more? I don't
can't take any more.
I don't know if we can replicate that.
One's enough.
But yeah, cool. And if you want to be pen pals with Kris, follow him at Kris Greene _ something.
It might take 2 weeks for me to respond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, let's wrap it on that. Thanks very much, guys, and we'll see you chat next time.